Welcome to this explainer. Okay, so today we're diving straight into a really brilliant piece of classic Sindhi literature. We're going to break down this beautiful little fable about community action. It's known simply as Junaid's story. And we're going to look at the actual mechanics of this moral tale. You know, the deeper logic that's kind of hidden right there under the surface.
So, what is the true measure of bravery? Think about it for a second. When you hear the word brave, what actually comes to mind? Is it like a soldier charging into battle? Is it pure physical dominance? I want you to keep this question in the back of your mind as we go through today's explainer, because honestly, we're going to completely rethink that definition by the time we finish this story.
All right, let's start with Section 1, the archetype of Junaid.
Every great fable needs a really compelling protagonist, right? And ours begins in this small, quiet village with a boy named Junaid. The source text establishes his baseline character right out of the gate. It tells us he's intelligent, kind, always speaks the truth, and literally goes out of his way to help everyone. And look, this isn't just a random list of nice qualities to have. Actually, think of it more like his toolkit. These are the foundational tools he's going to use later on. The villagers absolutely loved him. And it wasn't for his wealth or status, no way. It was specifically for these high morals and his incredibly strong work ethic.
Moving on to Section 2, the village crisis.
But you know, a strong character means very little until it's actually tested. And boy, does it get tested. One year, an absolute catastrophe occurs. A severe drought hits the village. The text notes that this caused a massive, immediate water shortage. I mean, you can just imagine the tension, right? The villagers were deeply, deeply worried. They were essentially paralyzed by this whole crisis. It's your classic environmental and really existential threat that just freezes people in their tracks, totally unsure of what to do next.
Which brings us to Section 3, a proactive solution.
So instead of just sitting around worrying passively like the rest of the village, Junaid steps up. He teams up with his friends to tackle this disaster head on. And honestly, the logic of their three-step approach is just brilliant. First, they cleaned out the old wells, getting the infrastructure ready. Second, they planted trees, which is a huge investment in long-term ecological health. And third, they arranged for rainwater harvesting. They're basically setting up systems to capture whatever relief might eventually come their way. It completely bridges the gap between passive morality, like just being a good boy, and active logical problem solving. They're out there doing the really hard work to prepare the ground for their own salvation.
Now, a few months passed, and that requires a lot of sustained patience and trust in the systems they just built. But then, the rain finally fell. And because of their proactive setup, those old wells filled right up with water. The whole village transformed from this paralyzed, terrified community facing a severe shortage right back into a prosperous, thriving society. Their calculated hard work literally saved their home.
Now for Section 4, the elder's wisdom. This dramatic success brings us to what's really the emotional peak of the text. The older generation, the village elders, witnessed Junaid's successful leadership, and they issue this profound statement of appreciation. They say, "True bravery is not in strength, but in goodness, hard work, and serving others." This right here, this is the philosophical core of the whole story. The elders are completely pivoting the definition of bravery away from physical power or aggression, and they're anchoring it firmly in proactive community service and moral goodness. It's a real game changer.
And finally, Section 5, the ultimate lesson.
Moving into the aftermath of the crisis, we actually see a long-term cultural shift in the village. Junaid's name becomes this permanent, living symbol of good deeds and honesty across the entire region. Literally, every young person began to consider him their role model. And it cements a really powerful final takeaway for us. Respect and success aren't things you just take by force, right? They're earned. They're earned through hard work, truthfulness, and a real dedication to helping others.
Which brings me all the way back to you. How can you apply Junaid's brand of bravery in your own community today? Really think about it. His bravery wasn't loud. It definitely wasn't about fighting. It was about stepping up when everyone else was totally paralyzed and just doing the logical, helpful thing. So, what's your modern equivalent of cleaning the old wells or planting trees? I want you to just let that sit with you for a bit. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep asking the big questions, and I'll catch you next time.